Okay, so in that case, just let me know, Morgan.
Yep.
All right, thank you, Morgan. Welcome to this Ventnor Town Council meeting on 9th of August 2021. Do you have any apologies for absence?
From John Watkins and from Brian Lucas.
Okay, thank you very much. And can I ask members, are there any declarations of interest about the agenda items this evening? No. And item number 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. If members would like to take a quick look, and if there's no comments, then they'll be taken as read.
Well, just remembering, Chair, we have an item on the tide bill. Or was that the previous one? That was the one before, was it?
Is there any further comments on those? Can I take them as read? And move on to item number 4, the finance report.
Oh, can I just comment, Chair? Item number 3, planning committee meeting XX July. It was the 6th of July on the agenda. Just needs minutes it says minutes previous meetings, town council meeting we've approved. And under that it says planning committee meeting.
Sure, that's correct. I mean, there was no, but that would have been covered at the July meeting.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So
Okay.
just to say it was the 6th of July.
It was the 6th of July, yeah. Okay. And it would have been reported at the July meeting. So, okay. Right. Okay, item number 4, the finance report. Clark, if you please so kind.
Thank you, Chair. The usual framework, starting with balances at the end of July this time. The two bank accounts total £414,422, and those accounts have been reconciled to the 31st of the month. Payments during the month totaled £45,084, with 3,332 attributable to Salisbury Gardens. I've just drawn members' attention to some of the one of the larger amounts, and the credit of £10,281 in respect of the cancellation of business rates. We've been successful now in reclaiming the amount due from the 1st of April 2020 through to the 30th of June this year, because we have been paying business rates until the account got sorted out finally. We're now straight with that, and a welcome 10,000 contribution to the council's funds. Receipts during July, a total of 35,944, with 4,109 coming from Salisbury Gardens rents. Some larger receipts in the month to notes, 7,200 for 80% of the holiday activities funding, a programme that Tony McCarthy and Jordan are currently running. They pay 80% up front, and the other 20% will come once the final report is submitted. There's the payment from Iron Roads for their use of Dudley Road car park, and the VAT reclaim for Q1 of the current financial year. And finally, the year-to-date variances show that payments in the period for 4 months to date were £14,324 less than budget, with receipts being £4,153 over budget. Thank you, Chair. That's the report.
Super, thank you very much, David. Okay, members, any comments on this report in front of us?
Could I just ask a question, Chair?
Certainly.
It's for my understanding, because I'm not certain what it relates to. But under payments, there's a line for miscellaneous. which has got 8,000 going out, and is now, there's a 7,000 variance we budgeted. I just wonder, is miscellaneous a compounding various many things, or does it relate to one thing in particular?
I respond to that, Chair. That includes this month a one-off settlement payment that we haven't yet found a space for within our accounting system, but it will move in due course.
Well, I did wonder if it related to that, so thanks for clarification. It's in quite a chunk.
It would be better to put that under the salary or something, wouldn't it, at the top?
Well, we'll take a decision on that, and it won't stay in miscellaneous, but
Okay,
for now that's where it went.
thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any further comments on this? If not, then I will need a proposer and a seconder, please. That's secret to propose, and Mark Councillor Jeffries to second.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 5, the new public toilets. So as members will be aware, there has been 2 issues outstanding on our progress with the public toilets, and one of them, can you tell me, David, was the borrowing approval of £150,000? Was that reported at the last council meeting?
It was indeed, Chair.
It was, okay. I was, of course, absent from that meeting.
No, it was,
Okay,
yeah.
so that leaves us with the remaining obstacle, and that's point B on section 2. Discussions the Mayor and the Clerk have had with the Isle of Wight Council Office responsible for the car parks on the 20th and 26th of July have concluded with a commitment to provide a revised annual charge for the 4 parking bays. We have received that revised charge today. So this is the proposed rents that the Isle of Wight Council will be charging us for the 4 bays that the new public toilet would be standing on. We had hoped, their initial pitch was £5,900 for the 4 bays per year. We had hoped to get that reduced down significantly to 2,160, which would be the equivalent of 4 annual passes. Today, the Isle of Wight Council have made an offer to us at £2,950 per year, and that would be linked to the retail price index. So that is the main point for consideration on this paper now. So they have, that is 50% of their original proposal. Would members like to make a comment on that? This is the main obstacle now standing between the town councils giving the final approval for the project start. Steve, please.
Well, first and foremost, I think it's pretty outrageous that we're actually being charged rent to actually put a facility back that the council took away from the town in many locations. That's my first point of call. I do think it is outrageous. However, you know, I do note that the council have moved, and it's a reduction of 50%. But I'd be inclined to go back and actually say, this is what our original offer was, and I would give those qualifications that we're trying to improve our town, and that actually originally those facilities were actually taken away.
For information, I mean, that point has been made quite strongly to them, but you can table an amendment to this if you wish. Does anybody else have a comment on this proposed rental charge?
I agree with Steve, it's scandalous they took them away, but I think it's a balance now, really. I think if you push it too hard, are we going to end up, they're going to start pushing it back up again. It's a difficult one in negotiation. You know, sometimes greed will always bite you on the bottom, but it bluntly. So, are they too greedy or are we greedy? I think we're being more fair, and I think personally they're being fair too. That's my opinion.
My opinion is that they are being quite greedy on this, and I think, you know, that they only really lose that money when the car park is full and people go in, find out it's full, and then drive out. However, we are a long way down the road with this, and my feeling is I'll be very surprised if they do move on this. If we can go back to them, I would be surprised if they move.
If we do go back to them to negotiate, do you think that will cause severe delays to the construction because I do believe that people are badly wanting these toilets to be built.
I think, in my estimation, obviously that there's a minimum of 1 month delay from this meeting, an absolute minimum. It's impossible to say. I mean, so far, I have to say, thanks largely to Phil Jordan, the Cabinet Member for Infrastructure, the Isle of Wight Council have met us pretty promptly, and we have had good relationships so far with the officers whose jobs are pertaining to this. That's not to say that string, that elastic can only be stretched so far, can't it?
We've got another problem really, is that all the time we're messing around, we've already been hit. We're facing an increasing cost because of material on it considerably. This quotation's only limited time to held, so are we playing a game and end up more rising costs for materials? Very difficult, isn't it? There's a lot of them around the corner still, cost to come in. But the contractor has fixed it now for a period.
Okay.
We need to consider that, I think so.
I think I'll just comment this point as well, Chair. I agree with comments just a bit. The longer we wait, the more it's going to cost us. I don't believe it's really ethical to charge us this much anyway, but having made a 50% reduction, and we were hoping to get within £800 of that, we're getting quite close. And we could easily see £800 vanish in increased materials. We delay. It's taken so long to get this far. Probably better on balance to consider going ahead with this and getting the whole project started.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although I disagree with the amount which they're actually charging us. I feel that there could be more charges we have to pay with building costs if we delay this any longer. So yeah, I'd agree to actually accept what you're saying. And another point, how far have we got with negotiating taking over the central car park with them at the moment?
That's on the next paper.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Could I just ask, Stephen, have we got any arrangement for renegotiating this in the future? So when the toilets are actually in situ, or is it a fait accompli?
I would have to defer to the experience of the clerk. I would be very surprised if there's going to be a clause in there.
They're not proposing a break clause in this arrangement, no.
Okay.
Okay, so you're very welcome if you'd like to table an amendment to this, and we can take a vote on whether or not to go back to them. You're very welcome to do so, or we take a vote on the existing recommendation.
Well, listening to esteemed colleagues, I completely sympathise with where they're actually coming from, and I'm a practical man. So I'm quite willing to say let's have a vote on the new price that's actually come back to us. But what I'm looking for is some sort of renegotiation in the future. I don't want the Isle of Wight Council to keep coming back to us, hiking it up. It is a necessary facility that was actually taken away from us. And that's my position.
On that point, I agree absolutely. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this price will be fixed, and it will be fixed to the retail price index ad infinitum.
As you said at the start, it will just be linked to the RPI.
There's a real point of detail. Everything the government does now is CPI, isn't it?
It is.
Well,
Well, I mean, over a long period, it makes quite a difference.
okay.
That's correct.
The government advice now is that all public bond issues.
That's correct.
Would you? We can go back to them on that.
Okay.
Yeah. Did we not query it when we first saw it?
The email came this afternoon.
It's the first time we've had an indexing proposal. Well, we should go back and say fine, but note that government advice is that CPI is the recommended index for inflation. On that basis, we're prepared to agree it.
That's a good. That's a good bit of insight.
In 10 years' time, we'll probably have the £800 back.
Okay.
because they are being greedy. I mean, they're costing it on average cost, but even if it's half the average cost, when common sense tells you that the loss of income will be marginal income not. And they take no account of the fact that people who park in our car parks with Isle of Wight council parking permits, we get no income from that. And they're taking no account of the fact that when we give up the Morgan Road toilets, they're going to get an asset back that they can sell, and we won't be asking for any benefit from it. So it is a hard deal, really.
It is a hard deal, and it will be, in financial terms, it is going to be, I think it's fair to say it will be a net gain for the Isle of Wight Council.
Because they won't lose any income at all, in practice.
No,
very little.
No, very little, yeah. But as I said at the beginning, it's only really when the car park is full and people have to turn around and go away that they actually lose that, and that is on very rare occasions. Okay, Steve, are you happy that we take on this recommendation? Well,
yeah, I'm happy as happy as I can be. I guess supporting what Ian's actually said, because I think that's quite important.
Okay, can we insert that into the wording of the recommendation? And we'll, okay. So, to be absolutely clear, the recommendation that we will vote on is the Town Council has recommended to consider the proposed revised charge for the required 4 parking bays, and if that is acceptable, to authorise the clerk to issue the contracts for the building of the new public toilets to its preferred contractor, DM Norville Associates. Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please?
I like to propose that, please. Thank you.
And seconder? And Councillor Long. Okay, thank you very much. So, item number 6. Car park management. Now this should answer your query. Thanks very much to the clerk who's prepared a very, very detailed briefing for us there. I've summarised it. I've summarised it for members and for members of the public who might happen to be watching this even now or at a later date on YouTube. The Town Council has successfully ran 4 car parks since 2015, providing lower cost parking and permits whilst breaking even on the rents payable to Isle of Wight Council. However, the vast bulk of parking remains with the Isle of Wight Council, and with it, the opportunities to enact a whole town strategic approach with flexible local management. As members know, Ventnor Town Council have appealed to the Isle of Wight Council by way of the community right to challenge to run the extra car parks, and this was refused in June. Legal advice taken on that refusal indicates that it was improper as it did not indicate the precise grounds for refusal. The advice did not go as far as to explicitly recommend legal action at this point, but suggested to seek alternative agreements. To that end, and with thanks again to Councillor Phil Jordan, the clerk and I have had 2 meetings with the relevant Isle of Wight Council officers. The first had a wide-ranging agenda, and the second was more focused on the question of the second was solely focused on the question of the car parks. At both meetings, the Isle of Wight Council explained their reasoning for not wishing to relinquish control of the car parks. The reason being future revenue protection and difficulties on things like island permits and tourist permits. However, it was strongly suggested that they are very willing to work with Ventnor Town Council on a possible implementation of the points as listed on the attached handout. So, if you have taken that all in, where we are now is with this sheet attached here and the bullet points listed. The top bullet points, the implementation of a VTC run car park operation managed within Ventnor on behalf of Ventnor residents and visitors. That one, as it stands, is not on the agenda unless we wish to dive further into the legal route. However, the other items, I'll bring them in a second. However, the other items now did receive a much more favourable welcome from the officers who we spoke to, and they believe that they can work with the council on some of the implementation of some of these bullet points. The question now will be the process by how we dig down into the detail of that, both from what we want as a council and how we open those channels of communication with the Isle of Wight Council. Clark, would you like to add anything to this, or your specialist subject? One of your specialist subjects, sorry.
It's a very good summary, thank you, Chair. I think we can proceed with that. I mean, there is a choice, of course, the members need to make, which is at some point, and perhaps not tonight, whether to go along the route that the Isle of Wight Council are now proposing, namely of implementing which of those items they find a way of including within their own management. And the other is to continue to pursue the route of the value of local strategic management of car parking. And if that includes other areas on the island, which seems to be a major consideration for them, one of their fears that if they get, we've said repeatedly, if we grant this to Ventnor, then others will want it too. To which my answer as an officer to their officers is why not? And as some of you will have noticed from the county press this week, Newport are now joining the fray about this and demanding or suggesting or asking for some control over their own car parking arrangements. So there might be a case for a wider campaign along the lines of ensuring that those town and parish councils that are capable of managing car parks and wish to do so should have that opportunity to progress that. Or we have this option which the Chair has now outlined, which is the Isle of Wight Council will see what they can do to indulge us. I apologise for the indulge.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Members, would somebody like to comment on this issue?
Can we not do both, Chair? We don't have to do one or the other. We can engage with the we can come up with we can engage with the other advice on what we want to do with the car parks, which does require us to be a bit more specific about what it exactly is we want to do in car parks, which is a point I've raised a number of times before. And then simultaneously we can talk to other parish councils about a wider campaign for local ownership. We don't have to do one or the other.
That's a point worth taking. Yeah. Okay.
And I mean, actually, doing it that way is quite helpful because the subtext in engaging with the Isle of Wight Council on some of these things, which I suspect when we get into detail will prove difficult, or at the very least they will do some more dodgy sums and come up with a very high price tag for them. And the fact that in the background we're talking to other towns that might be interested is a sort of subtext that they don't engage seriously on this agenda, then they're going to have more towns wanting to go UDI.
Well, on the basis of that, Ian, I'm very happy to go in contact with the chair of Newport Community Council and speak to him and see if we can align on that. I mean, I can do that. That's no problem at all. And I agree completely. We're looking down through these bullet points here. You can well imagine they'll come with a hefty price tag, can't they? Like 3 days free day parking and so on and so forth. And if we go back to, I'm sure they will engage in the same way that they engage by saying it's going to be nearly £6,000 for 4 parking spaces for your toilet that we took away. Okay, thank you, Ian.
But we do need a parking strategy for the town. I mean, again, the point I've made before, but it is absurd that you drive around along the high street and there's a car park right by the shops and it's got a big sign saying long stay car park. I mean, no town essentially put a long stay car park opposite the shops, and we've got car parks hidden away, that are more suited to long stay. And I mean, it's just the signage, as it mentions here, it needs sorting out.
Can I just comment on that? That point, Councillor, was raised in the meeting that the Mayor and I had, and they are insistent that will stay long stay. They will not consider, while they control that car park, and move to short stay.
What's the logic? Apart from that, it goes against half the things we were talking about doing. How on earth can that be logical?
I can only assume it's to do with the revenue. It's one of their highest earners on the island. Would they say it was the third highest earner?
I don't, no, it's not, no. It takes in 95,000 or thereabouts a year, central car park.
The tariffs are the same all round, aren't they? So it's only, at the moment, it's only a question of signage.
Their argument is that people, the traders, for example, want to use it all day. That's one comment that I can recall from the discussion.
But again, if you were sensible, you give the traders a permit at a discounted cost for a market and Pound Street, so they get off the high street, and you leave the high street car park free for customers. That would be the sensible.
The problem lies in the parentheses.
It doesn't seem very hopeful, then, does it? If even something simple like not having a long stay car park in the high street is a fundamental problem, and it's just a question of signage. That doesn't fill us with great hope that they're really going to engage on the rest of this stuff.
I agree, Councillor.
Okay, so we do need perhaps a way forward about it here. We need to dig down into the nitty-gritty and the detail of each of these items and see if there are things here that we do want to engage with them on. I think, as you said, I mean, something like the introduction of a residents' park free day on Wednesday, you can only imagine the costs that they would pile on for that. So we can be fairly sure that an item such as that, whilst we might be able to do it as a town council if we controlled all of the car parks, if they remain under the auspice of Isle of Wight Council, it's going to be eye-wateringly expensive. But how do we? By what mechanism should we go through these points?
I think it's probably a waste of time going through those points. I think my own view is we're better waiting to see what they come back with. They have told us they will consider that list and they will suggest what they can incorporate. And meanwhile, I would hope that we can have discussions not just with Newport, which would be welcome, but as you know, both Freshwater and Ryde have indicated an interest in managing car park. Time for a campaign fair.
Okay, well I see nodding heads. So based upon that, I'll draft something to the chairs of the other councils that you've indicated are interested in going.
So, could I just ask a point? Is there any staffing issues if we were to take control of that car parking?
There's a staffing
Yes.
issue. There is a resource implication. Yes, I mean at the moment Morgan is buzzing around the town collecting money out of the machines. Yeah. But the maintenance of the car parks, for example, and the revenue protection, is that what we call it, revenue protection?
Yeah.
Tickets. That's all still completely under the auspice of the Isle of Wight Council.
Okay.
Are there any other items?
No, maintenance lies with our roads.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as you say, we decided to leave the enforcement with the Isle of Wight Council because they do it well. And they know
What is the point of a residence free day on a Wednesday? Surely that would be everyone free day on a Wednesday, wouldn't it? To encourage shoppers. Yes, you see, they've got residents, haven't they? To me, it makes sense.
Well, this is from the report from 2013. Maybe in 2013 it made a bit more sense than it does now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, an objective for this council can also be to look at the bullet points here and review them internally and determine what we would seek as well. I mean, there's not a lot of point actually in having the Isle of Wight Council respond to these points if we don't want half of them.
Yeah.
I mean, my suggestion would be that the Assets and Services Group reconsiders this list / a similar list, and we use that for a starting point. And that can be forwarded on by David to the relevant officers. I suspect they're not staying up all night looking at this, so you may well have time to get a revised list into it. Okay, well, there's nothing to vote on with this. So we leave it as if the Assets and Services Group want to have a look at these bullet points and a revised list of bullet points. And in addition to that, I will draft something and I'll run that past David, of course, and we'll look at communicating with the other parish councils that are aiming in this direction.
Just one final point, Steve.
So-
Have we got a time frame on when the council are actually going to get back to us? No, we haven't.
No, but so far they have been very good, despite being busy to hear. So
I'm just suggesting that once we have what their considerations are and how they're actually going to assist on some of these points, then that the working group, the assets group, can actually have something to look at properly and come up with some concrete plans. That's why I was asking the question.
yeah, and conversely, it would be good if the assets can furnish the Isle of Wight Council with an updated list as well. So we'll see whoever gets across the line first.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. Item number 7, number 31 bus. So as the old councillors, will know, and as I can inform the newer councillors, this has been discussed many times over the years, and it's come under a great deal of scrutiny for its financial performance, the passenger numbers, and operational issues that we've had. As you'll know, going back 2 months ago, a working group was set up to dive a bit deeper into those issues and to look for a new operator, in the hope that a new operator would give the service a new lease of life. Unfortunately, as is noted in section 3, part A, the operators that we pitched the service to had, unfortunately, despite some initial interest, we haven't been able to secure a new operator. So the recommendation is, as stated at the bottom of the paper, to endorse the recommendation of the working group to terminate the service through the process as identified in section 3, which is a long process, unfortunately, of around about 10 weeks from sending in notice to the service actually ceasing. I can inform all the members that are not a part of the working group. Sadly, it's only Steve Cooper here this evening. Both Brian and John Watkins are also on the working group. I can tell you that we are looking hard at a replacement service, and obviously you can't make any promises at this time, but there's very strong rationale for the council to assist people with transport. There's an economic rationale, an environmental one, and a social one. Having looked at as many government guidance papers as I can in recent weeks, there's also a strong rationale for bringing that in-house. The work has to be done in the coming weeks, and we have to go through the sums, and then the great hope is that within 2 months, we'll be coming back to the council with a solid proposal of something that we can have internally. Would anybody like to make any comments on the paper before them?
Yes. Of the 3 operators you spoke to, did they give any reasons as to why they weren't going to take up the service?
Okay, so I think you can say 2 of them just went cold on us with no, the trail just ran out, and when your emails, if you're trying to engage somebody in a business contract and they're not answering their emails and it all just goes quiet, then effectively it doesn't show any interest, does it? And if the relationship is like that at the beginning, I don't want the council to become engaged with that into that process. I don't want the staff to be into a process where they're trying to communicate with people who they never get any feedback from. So that was 2 of them, and one of the other operators said that they would only be interested in the service if they had full control over all aspects of the service, which, as far as I'm concerned, would preclude too many of the aspirations that we might have as a council to tweak and modify and to really sculpt the service to fit the town more than having the service fit a revenue target.
Yeah, okay, thank you. There's another question as well. I have had a few people actually I've spoken to and contacted me concerned that where this service is going to be stopped, that it's going to be stopped for a long time, and even some has suggested that maybe it won't get going again. Can you give any assurances that you're going to try the hardest to actually get this back and running again?
What I can give as an assurance is that I'm absolutely certain that this town could have and should have a service which gets people out of their homes, which makes the communities viable, and I'm absolutely certain that rationale exists. And I'm quite sure that my other colleagues on the working group are in agreement with that. And I would hope that we could bring something to the council that where that rationale would shine through and be strong enough for the council to commit to a replacement. But obviously, I'm not in any position to click my fingers and say this will happen on such and such a date. But it's certainly it's a personal objective.
Thank you.
Just on a point of detail, Chair, there's something wrong with the March, April and May figures in terms of subsidy per passenger, because they don't work out, whereas the June and July ones appear roughly to be right, but some of the numbers, the earlier months must be wrong. I mean, you don't have to do it now, but it'd be worth double checking those. That'd be worth that.
Okay. Okay. There's no further comments. I'll move to the recommendation, and that is to endorse the recommendation of the working group to terminate the service through the process identified in section 3, which will take approximately 10 days from notification of the local authority. So, 10 weeks from notification to the local authority. And for the working group to continue to explore alternative arrangements for the bus service.
I'll propose that, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
and second, Councillor Bond. Okay, item number 8, new website. So, members of the council and members of the public will be quite well aware that the website is only just creaking along. Doesn't have a very modern look or feel to it, does it? So I'm grateful for Councillor Ian Bond for getting this onto the agenda and getting it in front of us. And Ian, would you like to give us an update of the paper?
Essentially, it's in the paper, Chair. The working group had a meeting. We went through the suppliers that were recommended by our previous council meeting, plus the council's existing supplier, plus white computers as recommended by the officers. So we had 5 candidates, and we effectively shortlisted it down to 3. And the recommendation is we go with the 3 recommended in the report, and that was on the basis of our own assessment of their example websites, plus Morgan's very good work on analysing them from a technical point of view.
I did have a look through all the parameters that were looked at on the assessment. Quite an impressive list there in paragraph B in section 2. Okay, seems fairly straightforward. And
so, I mean, now depends on how quickly we get responses, essentially. If we are going out to these 3 suppliers, you should get 3, hopefully get 3 proposals and quotations back, and then it will be for the working parties to have a look through them and then come back to the council. We can discuss how to take it forward.
Okay, anybody else like to make any comments on this? Then we move straight to the recommendation. The Town Council is recommended to authorise the clerk to request quotations for the supply and maintenance of a new Town Council website from Zonke, Aubergine and White Computers. Can I have a proposer? Proposed by Councillor Jeffries and seconded by Councillor Cooper. Okay, item number 9, rural market towns group. Would you mind introducing this?
I've been pestered by this group for 6 months, Jeff, and never sure whether it was valid enough. So, but in the end, I gave in because there's no cost to the council. Given the information they've supplied, there may be useful connections for it, and the only person who will have to do any work as a result of it is me. So,
Ideal. Okay, thank you very much. I'd just like to say, it might be of interest to members. So the Rural Market Towns Group is a recent development from within the Rural Services Network. The Rural Services Network send out a weekly or bi-weekly email. It has some excellent topics. It's really well worth reading. Really, very, very good topics for local authorities and councils such as ours who are a little bit out in the sticks. Okay, super. So the membership will.
it's already started.
Yeah, I was just saying we'll start forthwith. Yeah, okay. Super.
I'll come back to you when they want to charge for it.
Yes, I mean, is it inevitable? Is that the direction of travel? Is it?
But yes, they say that it's free until 31st of March next year,
Okay.
and then they'll be proposing a charge of £130 a year.
Okay. Well, let's see what benefits can be accrued from it. Okay.
I mean, a network that would be probably more relevant to the town, more interesting if it existed, would be some sort of seaside towns network, which is very topical. It's been in the news recently with the health report, and that would probably be more relevant to us in the sense that although we're surrounded by countryside, the actual parish isn't particularly rural and we don't have a market. Apart from that, it's perfect for us.
From recollection, quite a few things on the Rural Services Network on their email circular that get circulated. Coastal issues do come up frequently. We are at the fringes here, aren't we? Okay, thank you very much. So, without further ado, go to the Town Clerk's report.
Yes, briefly, we are interviewing 2 of the 3 applications we received, and 2 of the candidates on Thursday of this week. The Connect for Communities Fund, I think I did inform members that we have been successful in applying for a further £5,000 that will be distributed to families in need of assistance with accessing food supplies in the same way as we did before. The mechanisms work really well, and there's no reason why they won't again. The Welcome Back Fund gave us a rather odd grant, allocated £5,000 to the Town Council, but not as a grant. So the the Exchange's proposal for Street Theatre was accepted as one of the projects that could be funded, and that's been delivered, and the Exchange now need to invoice the Isle of Wight Council, who will pay them directly.
Okay.
I'm in touch with Jack about that, so it should happen okay. The latest of Bob Seeley's meetings, these are now moving from fortnightly, which he's done for a year or so, to monthly, but they're still very valuable, and I still go along to them. For members' information, that I visited the offices, as you can see, and met Tony and Alison in the green room, and it was by both their accounts very positive communication. Other than the land site meeting, some slow movement there in the form of a meeting that Councillor Toogood and our architect Andrew Hitt had with me and the Isle of Wight Council's Claire Elderfield, who's been progressing an interest in this site for some time and has done some good work on it, and that made some progress. Working groups, meetings, And that's it.
Okay, super. Thank you very much, Dave. Okay, so with that,